anyone know what the Office of Emergency Services in Sacramento does besides a couple of these characters in the back here? We're one of the more obscure offices in the county and in any kind of government, but we're the ones that are kind of the glue that brings everything together. Our assignment is we work with I work for the county the executive office. So our county exec is our boss, immediate boss. We carry the authority of the exec to make certain decisions, and evacuation orders can only really be made by the county executive of the county. Law enforcement does it for emergency periods of time, life-saving. You know, we have a hazmat fire involved, we'll do a quick evacuation. We get into the flooding and long-term issues, that becomes our issue. We work side by side with fire and law. We're partners with them. They have the ability to go and get their own assistance within, if it says law enforcement, police, sheriff on the car, they can go and get other sheriff units from other counties and get other assistance. So fire on it, fire can go get other fire equipment. Everything else has to go through our office. We're a really big office. There's 2 of us. We're getting real happy because we have a rumor that by the end of the month we'll have a 3rd person. So that means instead of every 2 weeks I'm on, every other week I'm on call, I'll be on call every 3 weeks. So we're really happy to have an expanding the staff. But we do a lot of things. I'm called a coordinator, and that's really what I do. I spend a lot of time knowing a lot of people, talking to lots of groups of people, and explaining what and how you can help us. I've been doing this for a long time. I started with the U.S. Forest Service as a helitack supervisor for 7.5 years on the Sierra National Forest. I left there and I worked for the Department of Labor for a little while, and then I got an opportunity. The current governor, many years ago, appointed me to be the first California Conservation Camp manager. So I opened the first California Conservation Camp in San Luis Obispo. We got 125, we called them kids. They were 18 to 22 years old. They came in there voluntarily, wanted to come out, learn a skill, do some work, help the country. And the first day we had 300 floor mats and 500 swatters or flies. That was what we had when they got to the camp. Everything we got to the camp was because we went around, begged, borrowed, and stole from other agencies. We told them how poor we were, what we needed, and we had the vans, we had a kitchen, we had the whole kitchen crew, we had bedding, everything, all borrowed from partner agencies. So I do this a lot. I'm talking to a lot of people, borrowing a lot of things, and doing a lot of coordination. I spent 25 years with the National Red Cross as a disaster planner. I've lived in Saipan, where I built a warehouse for Department of Defense, Homeland Security, and FEMA and Red Cross. It was cheaper to send me out and build a warehouse out there. It cost, in 5 years, cost the government $23 million to air freight stuff out to Guam and Saipan for hurricanes. So it was easier to go out and build a warehouse out there and pre-position equipment. I lived in Hawaii for a year for Red Cross, where I wrote the feeding plan on how we would feed the Pacific in case of a hurricane. And 20 years later, they actually pulled the plan out, read it, and used it when we had the typhoon in American Samoas. We actually pulled that plan out, and it actually worked. So I've been through a little over 250, somewhere between 250 and 300 national disasters. Some of the bigger ones you've known of, Katrina and Andrew and the Midwest floods and stuff like that. One of the unique things that I did, I was in Houston when the shuttle crashed. And I was one of the first people that started responding when we heard the boom. We actually heard the plane. We knew the plane was coming over the area, and it normally did have a sonic boom when it went over Houston, made its left turn, and headed straight into Florida. We didn't know when we heard the boom that it actually was starting to disintegrate until about 5 to 10 minutes later. So that was one of our better little operations we did. It was one of those fun calls when you call national headquarters and say, the shuttle just crashed, what do we do? And their answer is, beat the heck out of us, we've never dealt with it, do whatever you need to do. I hung up, said, okay, we'll do what we need to do. And so that was one of our first incidents, kind of unusual incidents. But back in 1990, when I first went to work for Red Cross, one of the things I did was we were delivering some supplies, and we had a wildland fire break out. We opened the person who lifted me was my brother, and I said, hey, by the way, you're now a Red Cross volunteer. So he became a volunteer. We opened the shelter. We had 102 people show up that night. No radio, long before cell services were around. We had this lonely guy who drove up about an hour into the deal, jumped out and said, I'm with Aries, I'm here to help. And he got his radio out and we started communicating with that. A couple weeks later, we went to Yosemite National Park, the Herock fire, and the national park was closed down. We had 110 people sheltered there for a week and a half. All of the telephone lines were burned. And the sheriff said, okay, open the shelter. I said, well, I can't do that. I said, I don't have any communications. You got to be able to talk to somebody. So he gave me a sheriff radio. That worked. I was Red Cross on their radio for a couple of days. But that afternoon, and then they said, well, what else do you need to open the shelter? You got a radio. I said, I don't have a nurse. So we had a search and rescue nurse. So again, we begged, borrowed, and stole everything we could. And a little later on that afternoon, guy shows up, jumps out of his car, he's got all kinds of antennas on his car, said, I'm here to help. And he was able to patch us through, and we worked for about 5 days together with the team rotating in and out for providing the amateur radio service to us because we had no other way of dealing with communications. That was when cell phones were first coming out. So towards the end of the fire, this guy comes from Verizon or a company, whatever the company name was, and he's handing out cell phones to all of us. You don't need those radios. They don't. These are the modern things. That was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. At 5 o'clock, they became dead weight. They didn't understand that when you run a generator, you got to have a fuel system that continually feeds it, so the generator stopped. He was on the peak, no antenna that knocked down into the San Joaquin Valley, so our radios were back in use. So I've been involved with amateur radios for a long time, putting them into tactical business and tactical frequencies out in the field, utilizing people like yourself in many shelters, in many situations. We were in Katrina, in Andrew, the same things. I mean, people didn't understand when you got to Katrina, everybody said, hey, I'm pretty smart. We all know that cell phones will jam. So we're smarter. We brought satellite phones with us. They didn't understand that satellite systems only have 250 nodules on a satellite. When you open 251, the 51st one doesn't work. So again, it was the amateur radio folks being able to transmit the information from the field to where we needed it to be, to state government, to Red Cross, to local agencies, to FEMA. We depended on you doing your job in the field. And I am a ham operator, my wife is a ham operator. We don't practice it a lot, but we have the radio equipment in our house, we have it available to us, we have it in our vehicles. But if you see my vehicle out there, you'll see probably like 9 antennas on it, so I've got a lot of radio equipment on my vehicle now. But there is a ham radio in that vehicle. So, you know, we still look at it today. Sacramento County works on the 800 trunking system. It'll never fail. Okay? We all know that doesn't work all the time. So we still depend on having everybody involved. 2 years ago, we had a 5.4 earthquake in Southern California and Los Angeles. Within 15 minutes from San Diego, from the border to Castaic, all cell phones were jammed. And, you know, so it happens quick. We know what's going to occur. So we're again, depending on volunteers and what you do to take time out of your life to come help us and help your citizens in the community as well. So it's our process that we want to keep everybody involved. We need all of you because there's about 50 people in this room tonight. John, how many people do you have in your group?
74.
Okay, and we're 1.4 million people. So we're a little short on volunteers with training equipment. So, but you're the key to helping us communicate during this whole process. You're our eyes and ears out there, whether you're at home or you get deployed to a shelter or what we call points of distribution. You're going to be our eyes and ears out there telling us what's going on. This last, early December, we had that nice heavy rain. We were supposed to get another event this weekend. but we did, because of the wind that was coming with it, we were told 45 to 45 miles an hour sustained winds, gusting to 65. We knew a lot of limbs were going to come down, trees were still full of leaves. That's a tendency to see a lot of power lines go down. Power lines go down, cell service stops, people don't know what to do. Yeah, we have the 800 radio system that works, but that only works for government itself. So again, we're back to having you as our eyes and ears in the field telling us what's going on and communicate without having to worry about a cell phone. So that's why we want you to be involved with us, why your organization needs to be involved with us. John and Vince and I are working together. We're going to do an exercise on February 28th. We hope you are a part of it. It's strictly aimed at amateur radios. We're going to start around, we haven't got the exact details down as to what time we're going to start, somewhere around 8:30, and probably wind it up by around 10:30, 11 o'clock, just a short exercise, touch base with you, touch base with agencies to find out how, if you can rally your volunteers, how many would be available on the 28th at 8:30 in the morning to be able to respond to an incident. We're going to simulate actually going to a shelter or going to a location. Our plan right now is to say that if you live on Riley and somewhere in Folsom, right off of Riley, it'll take you about 15 minutes to get to the shelter we assign you to, and call us on the radio so we can communicate with you and know that you got there. And you two we're going to pair everybody up. So you have to touch base with your partner and make sure you're able to talk to each other, talk to us, get back. But we're also involving the CERT teams in the county. We have, through our office, we have a program called the Medical Reserve Corps, which is mainly doctors, nurses, LVNs, LPNs, medics, paramedics, and I guess it's almost been a year, John. I'm not sure how long we've been partnering now.
A little over a year.
A little over a year? Yeah. John and his group are working with Medical Reserve Corps. They're doctors and nurses. Some of them have taken ham training. I'd rather have them doing medical work than trying to talk on a radio. So, yeah, but that's more important to bandage the people up when they're there. But if we need to, you have the ability to get on that radio. And again, we partnered up, and this year after the rain event, we had that cold snap. We opened a shelter warming center, and again, the group was down there for that. And because of the relationship of working with the Medical Reserve Corps and the Aries group, they were able to walk in seamlessly and start working together as a partnership. And that's what we want to happen with you too. We want you to be a part of us, part of our group, work in a coordinated effort so that when we have incidents wherever you live, that we can get you deployed to a location near you. We're trying to do it in a coordinated part, so we're not doing something crazy like you live in Galt and we want you to go to Antelope. I got an idea of somebody in this group probably lives near Antelope. So we're trying to organize it so that when we call you and we call and ask Bob, who's available and where do they live and how do we, how can you deploy them? He's going to be able to say, yeah, we've got 5 people who can go do whatever. So we're trying to do it in a coordinated effort. We're also working with the search and rescue team for Sacramento County. They do a lot of searches. They have a lot of activity going on out there. Again, if they put a person in their communication center to monitor their ham radios, that's one less person that's trained to be out in the field. Isn't that something that we can do as one of you or one of our amateur radio folks be in there to take those messages, share that information, and get more people out into the field? So we're trying to make sure that we utilize you in an effective, efficient manner, in a meaningful manner, yet it still meets the needs of the community, meets your needs, and meets our needs. More importantly, it meets the community's needs. They're the ones that are looking for it. Like everybody else, volunteers, we appreciate your time, your effort. Volunteers, and I tell this to everybody I've managed and I've been a volunteer. I still volunteer for a lot of things. And I know that sometimes I go home and go, holy crap, what did my mouth just get me into earlier in the evening? But you know what, the next morning you have to get up and go do what you said you were going to go do. And you guys do that on a regular basis. But volunteers are very fragile. I mean, you are giving something we can't buy. There's no budget that I can create a budget that says I'm going to pay volunteers to do that, because you're volunteers. We also have to treat you as a volunteer and respect you, because guess what? If you don't like the way I treat you, you're not going to help me. That's right. You're going to go home. And if we don't only have you involved, volunteers have a tendency to do something crazy. If you don't feel needed, you're going to go volunteer somewhere else. You're going to go do that because that's part of your nature. So we do appreciate all of that effort. We do appreciate the training you've taken and all the work you do, building your radios, having your radios ready to go. All those pieces of the puzzle are important to us, and we appreciate it, and we appreciate what you do because it's important. But like I say, volunteers are unique people. Everybody else, you know, your neighbors, you look down the street, how many other ham radio operators are on your street? Yeah. I worked at Red Cross for 25 years. Like I said, we had volunteers who come out of the woodwork. They'd come out there and help you. You were maybe riding and serving food with a mayor of a small community, and you might be. I had the director of housing and for British Columbia government working in the shelter, cleaning floors and sweeping floors. So you don't know who you're going to have there. You're going to have all sorts of people involved, but we appreciate every one of the times because it's something you take out of your life to donate to us. We do have an ability, and I need to tell you how important you are. We do track your time and your effort, because as we get into a large-scale disaster, when we get FEMA involved in it, the presidential declaration, we get reimbursed at 75%. So that means the county and the state pays 12.5%, we pay 12.5% of that 25% together. But at our level, we need to have your roster of how many people you have deployed and how much time you put in there. Because FEMA does recognize your time. And they have come up with a number, and they use that number, so multiplied by the hours worked for our volunteers, and that goes against the 12.5% that we have to pay out of county funds. So you are, in many ways, helping us. We can reduce that 12.5% by X number of dollars. That's important, and FEMA recognizes it. FEMA recognizes that. When you're looking at what are we paying out of our taxes, if we can reduce that rate, because that's money that we have to take out of our general revenue, that's your tax-paying money that's paying that, and then you're able to contribute back to help reduce that number again. So all your time and effort is really important, and that's why we want you to be involved. That's why I'm here, because I think the world of what all the volunteers do, because I see it happen day in, day out, all over the world and all over the place. There's not too many places we don't see volunteers pop up at. Even in some of the worst places, volunteers are still there. I belong to a number of organizations, and one of them I played with a lot with Ducks Unlimited, and I said, you know, we need to ask people to go do that. Oh, you can't ask volunteers to do that. I said, why not? I said, that's hard work. That's unusual. Yeah, I'd call them up. Hey, you want to go to Hurricane Andrew and serve meals and sleep in a cot and, you know, be hot and humid? And everybody was like, yeah, I want to go. And you'd see these people show up, and hundreds of them would show up. And I said, yeah, you can ask people to go do it. They can either do one or two things. I'm not available, or yeah, I'll go. We've gone to, you know, to St. Thomas. The whole island is totally devastated. You land by tiki torches on a military flight at night, and you have to unpack your own bags off the plane. And we had to screen people to figure out whether they should go or not, because we had so many people wanting to go and help. St. Thomas, Saipan, I still had an amateur radio on my desk. We had an amateur radio group in Saipan that responded. And one of the issues that we had to face was Saipan is kind of unusual in some cases. It has the Mariana Trench and the Mariana Trough on both sides of it. One's 29,000 feet deep, so you don't bottom fish. The other side is only 25,000 feet deep. But the other ends are fairly shallow. And what does a tsunami need to have? It needs shallow run-up areas to be able to to be able to be affected. So if you live on a cliff, you won't be affected by a tsunami because it doesn't have the shoal to run up on it. But like I said, the islands do have shallow run-up areas. So we were told that we had a volcano developing. It was going to cause an earthquake, could cause an earthquake. We'd have 15 minutes time notice when the ground shook, before the tsunami hit the island. You're on an island that's 3 miles wide, 7 miles long, 70,000 people, and your closest neighbor is 225 miles away in Guam. You become very self-sufficient very quickly. So, but we brought our radio groups up. Our amateur radios were talking into the Philippines, into Japan. We could talk to Guam, and the HF frequencies we could get all the way up to Hawaii. And we had the mouse right, and the moon was in alignment and everything else. We didn't make it there. But we were able to talk to Yokota, Japan, to the military bases up there, and we did a lot of stuff like that. We did those practices that night. We were up until about 2 in the morning, testing all of that information because you really didn't know what was going to happen. People evacuated all the lying areas. They were sleeping in your yards, on the lawns, in their cars, along roads, everything else. But it was the amateur radio people who were able to help get that information out to the community that we did have communications, and we were there. And we had a satellite system out there that was left over from the military. But that was one of our mechanisms to get communications off to the island. They don't have, until recently, it was, the first 1 minute of the phone call was $3.75 for a minute on the phone. And then it was reduced to $2.25 a minute. So now it's improved because of technology, but radios are still important and key pieces of the puzzle out into the Pacific and other places. And I know people here have talked on some of the nets to Japan and other places, and I know a couple of people have talked to either Guam and Saipan off the radios and frequently touch base with them. So again, you're a key element of what we do and how we do information. We may not be affected here, but we may be looking for you to support us in other operations in other parts of the state and other parts of the world, because you're able to get out there into the ham world and in that area and arena for us. So we do think of that, and we do look at it, and it is a key piece of what we think of every day. John, Vince, do you guys have anything you want to add? I'll throw you guys under the bus unprepared.
No, just, the things that we do, like volunteering for California Marathon, or EPIs, or the Clarksburg, all that stuff prepares you for what we're doing for Roger. Whether it be the people that you meet, that you're working with, because when, like Roger was saying, when they had the worming shelters and stuff, and we were able to go right in, well, we knew the people that were at the worming shelters. So as soon as we went in through the door, we were ready to go. We knew the people, we knew what they knew what we did, and so we just gelled real quick, and we were up and running. So if there was any issues, it was not an issue, because we were so prepared for it through the training and the practice stuff that we do. So it's important to get involved and start with these, for the communications for like the marathon or Clarksburg or EPIs, because it does prepare you for what we're doing for Roger.
Yeah, feel free to jump in on the 28th with us at the end of the month to be involved in that too. So, John, did I forget anything?
Probably, yeah, but I'll remind you in the morning. No, I think everything's good, Roger. You did a good job. We would like to encourage you to be involved with ARES, even though you're not actual ARES members, but you are ham operators. That's the key right there. Ham operators are a unique group of people. And when I got involved with ham radio back in 2009, I had no idea that, a total stranger like me that had no radio experience could get on the radio and say, hey, what do I do about this? And 30 strangers would come back and answer you. Now you get 30 different answers, but still you got 30 different people responding, and that's what makes ham radio so unique. And the other thing that makes ham radio unique, there's only a very handful of you that are licensed and have the radio equipment to be able to help out in an emergency. I forget the numbers now, but somewhere out of 350 million people in the United States, less than 1 million are licensed ham operators. There's not a lot of us out there. And so you look at a group like this compared to the size of Aries, and you guys just, you know, almost doubled the Aries response. I mean, it's pretty amazing. And so, Roger, thank you very much for your talk. And, you know, don't let anybody go tonight unless they join.
Yeah. Well, one of our things, John and them are getting, I work over here at McClellan at what we call Building 600, and we kind of chuckle about Building 600. It's a fairly secure building, probably very secure in many ways. So we kind of kid about it ourselves because we say that Nevada has Area 51 and Sacramento has Building 600. It's a fairly secure building with a lot of federal assets and stuff that are all there working to protect us against the bad guys that are out there in this world that want to do bad things. But our security guard, when John and Vince were getting their IDs to get into the building, they said, yeah, okay, we'll look at them and that. So I called them the other day and said, hey, where do we stand? And the director of our security department had been reading the information on the snow event in New York. And he was reading through the list of all the agencies, Office of Emergency Services, Public Health, and right down on the bottom down there was amateur radios. And it dawned on him all of a sudden that what we were doing, we were just like New York City. We had ham radio folks in our system and in our building ready to respond. So it takes a little while for the public to understand what we're doing and some of the things we look at, but it's important. He finally recognizes it, like, oh yeah, they're so clear, they can come get their photos anytime now that they want to come in. So it takes a little effort, and we appreciate what what they do and how they help us get through there. But more importantly, we need you. We need you to be involved. So without boring you to death, any more questions? Anyone have a question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, a couple of questions because I've heard different things. About 15 years ago, I was over at Palo Alto at the Red Cross station. And the club members come over and said, well, hey, we're going to shut down because OES is going to take over if there's an emergency. And we had a communication banner and I says, okay. And then I was involved with EA and talked to somebody over there and they wanted to, some volunteers. So my basic question is, one, what are the requirements? Do we need a background check? Copies of our licenses, and any other things. And what modes do you run? Because like shares, you gotta have a PK232, like a $1,500 TNC to run back for. So forth.
Those are good questions. And yeah, no, you don't need a background check. The only time you need a background check is you're getting into Building 600. That's one of the requirements we have for the building. But that's the only place that I know we need that. We do need a copy of your license, or you have to have your license with you. You have to have your equipment with you. We don't have any. We have very limited equipment in our facility or anywhere else. And I know the Bay Area program well for Red Cross. We did a lot of stuff during the Loma Prieta. All the money that came out of Loma Prieta, we've got a lot of ham equipment and vehicles put together for that. So yeah, they're still, when OES shows up, trust me, you're gonna be there. I used to be the director of emergency services here for local Red Cross, and we were getting our folks trained and getting them licensed. And one of the amusing things to me was, we got on the noon net, we're hearing, our folks, we had them come into the office and use our radio so they can get practice really talking on the radio. It's one thing to take the class, next thing is to be able to push the button and talk. And somebody came back and said, oh yeah, we're scheduled to be over there at Red Cross and we're going to be there to help you. Great. Who the heck are they? So, A lot of people want to help, they want to help Red Cross and everybody else, but we don't know who they are. So one of the tasks that we're working on right now, and that's part of our exercise on the 28th, is to know what frequencies everybody's at. Like I said, we got CERT, we got Medical Reserve Corps, we've got the medical, public health has them, hospitals have them, SHARP has them. There's probably 4 different groups here in Sacramento County alone. And the one question I keep asking everybody, what frequency is everybody on? Because we've got to know how to reach you. It's like owning a satellite phone. I can order a pizza anywhere in the world, delivery gets tough, but you can't call me because there is no 411 to call and find out what Roger's satellite phone is. But with radios, y'all know where, each other's call signs, get on there and do that. So it's a coordination of frequency management, of understanding where we're going to be, and that's what we're trying to develop is so that when you're activated, what frequencies are you on so that we can coordinate between the agencies?
Another question I have. In looking into this, I saw a lot of disorganization between shares and Mars and OES and Aries and so forth, as far as frequency and mode, who does what. And some's under FEMA, other ARRL is involved with it. I called the director of shares and she couldn't even tell me what the frequencies or modes were. I had to look them up, they're online. And I was wondering, do you have this all worked out so if there is a disaster?
No, that's what I'm saying, that's
Yeah.
what we're trying to find out too. We want to know who's on what frequency so that when we're looking for somebody, we know where to find you at.
Can I answer that real quick?
Yeah.
We do, actually, with the 4 CERT groups, SHARP, Search and Rescue, and Aries, we do have a plan. And it also includes a frequency for the EOC, the Emergency Operations Center at OES, Building 600. This has taken 2 years to get done, but we are moving forward with it. And it won't be because of CERT and SHARP and Search and Rescue, we don't want to publish it, but the Aries frequencies will be published on our website. And this is so that when people go to the Emergency Operations Center, they can go find where the heck everybody is. Whether it's Outgrove CERT or Metro Fire CERT or Sacramento Fire CERT. And it's not as easy as you think. I mean, River City's got a repeater, but CERT doesn't. So they gotta go find a home. And so it takes a long time to find them a home so that you don't have 4 CERT groups on one repeater system jamming it up and getting a bunch of pileups. And it has taken a long time to get this worked out, but we have done it. And Roger will have that next week, but because of the CERT, the SHARP, the Search and Rescue, it won't be public knowledge where those people are.
The problem I run into though is when you get to the federal, because shares.
No, federal, we have nothing to do with.
Yeah, and they're separate, they do publish their frequencies and modes.
They do, but you're not allowed to use them. That's the problem. It is published. It is public record. It is called NIFOG, N-I-F-O-G. And when you read through that document, it's actually a small little booklet about that thick. And almost all of it is frequencies. And when you get to the very end of the book, after you spend like 30 days reading it, it says this is only for federal to federal communication. Now, some things have changed over the last 6 months. FEMA has signed with ARRL a memorandum of agreement. And they have submitted to Congress a petition to remove some of those federal frequencies out of the federal purview and put them into Aries purview.
Yeah. So the federal, you have to go through the background check. You have to have the sheriff's call sign. And when it becomes between local, state, and federal, there's a lot of loose ends
Well,
there
there's-
as far as.
Well, we're not gonna solve that problem, but locally,
Yeah, but locally.
when the feds come here, they're gonna have to come to us and talk to us to find out where it is. So that's why we wanna know that piece of the puzzle. So, yeah, trust me, FEMA gets out on the far end. I've been working with FEMA for years on that. So it does get kind of crazy. Other questions? Yes, sir.
I have my ham radio license, but I'm a real beginner. I'm kind of slow on this. And part of the reason I got it was because I want to be involved in this, but I'm not really sure how to get involved. I've been reading some of the books I bought some of the books and reading them online for the areas and things. But I live in the South Natomas area, and I'm wondering, is there like a way to get a hold of a mentor so that I can start becoming,
I think there's 49 other faces around here that can answer that question better than I can.
you know, that, yeah, I didn't know, okay, so.
No, I
into the ham radio-
mean, you're at the right spot to get that answer.
Anyway,
And-
after the meeting, if anybody, or during the break, if anybody wants to come to me, but, because I've been trying to find a mentor in the South Natomas area so that I can start, utilizing my ham radio.
Absolutely, we applaud you for that. It doesn't matter what age we start, it's what we're doing with it now. I had a neighbor down the street was in the electronics business and stuff like that, and I couldn't understand why he was in the house, and he was very animated at me. I was sitting in his truck talking on a radio, and he was very animated in that, and I was like 10, 12 years old. I didn't understand he had to let go of the button. So, we've all done that at different times, forgot to let go of the button, can't figure out if nobody's calling you back and answering your question. But you made step one, you're here tonight, you're here and asking that question, you put it out as a question to everybody else, and I'm sure people will help you through that, because that's we all started there. Square one, day one. Absolutely. Yes, sir.
I think it's important to remember that most of the activity around Sacramento is coordinated through Aries. And so if you're wanting a place to start, that's it. And John is the Sacramento County Aries coordinator, and he can talk to you more. Vince is an AEC, Assistant Emergency Coordinator. And as Vince said, you have to get involved in these activities so you can get some, behind the mic experience. But talk to these two fellows, and that's a place to start.
Rarely are we going to actually throw you to the wolves and send you out by yourself. We always want you in a team anyway, so at least you'll be partnered up with somebody who's got maybe 2 or 3 hours more experience than you. But you're together, that's the bottom line. Yes, ma'am.
Last year I was driving around the Thomas and saw all these command vehicles driving around. I was wondering what in the world was going on, and I found the California Mobile Command Rally there. And it was a free admission, go there, walk around, get to know the people and network with them. Just wanted to share that information. April 9th this year. It's out of the sled yard over by Del Paso Boulevard.
Yeah, we do that on a regular basis annually. We have it. I think NAPCO's in town next week, and I think all of the communications vans are going to be down there as well. They're going to be down there showing what's going on. So, a lot of communication going out there. But again, everybody has a ham radio in all of them. It doesn't matter what we do. So I hand over here. Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned that, or the gentleman mentioned that you don't have a repeater. And I know there are like CERT nets and Sharp has their net. Does OES have a net? Is there any way to participate?
No, we don't have a net of our own. We depend on Aries as one of our backbone for communications and in that part. We're working to get them some equipment. The last couple of days I've been writing a grant for the Department of Water Resources, Federal Water Resources Department, or California State Water Resources, and how to deal with communication issues and stuff like that for a statewide grant. We're writing for Sacramento County. But what we wrote into that was a digital packet system, I guess, is the simple answer to the question. But we don't own any repeaters or have access to the repeaters. We have a friends and partners that do have them, and I live in El Dorado County, and I know that on the 805 that we have up there, we can talk all the way down to Fresno on it, and so I know that we can jump on that repeater if we need to, and that's what I depend on John and Vince and the other groups to be able to tell us where and what frequencies, what channels to get us to, so that we can communicate. Yes.
Is there opportunities for us to
Yeah, we can take you on a tour in the, some evening and come over and have your meeting over there if you want. We don't, our building is such that, we just reconfigured the building again for probably the 20th time. And, right now we had a Kenwood 2000 on the roof and set up, but we took it down because we thought we were moving. And now we're staying, so we gotta get it put back up, but, we lost our radio room. But, I think we've come up with an answer, as to where we wanna put the radio and make it functional for the operators when they're there and accessible into the EOC and into our office. So we'll be happy to take on a tour and show you what goes on. Yeah, not a problem. We just need to schedule it ahead of time. If we do a month, some month meeting, we can, as long as I get everybody's name, we can run it through and set it up in the evening and do a tour, no problem, and have your meeting there as well.
You said NAPCO's.
Yeah, NAPCO's here this next week. They're down at the convention center down there.
Is there an opportunity to tour trailers?
I'm sure they're gonna have them down there. From what I understand, they're gonna be all around the convention center down there most of the week, so you can get down and actually look at them. So, yeah, it's open to the public, from what I understand. Somebody else?
Yeah, the OES is a state, and you're with the county, is that, okay, and your 600 building, and that's McCall, the OES is the South Discovery Park, the south of Discovery Park near Richards. That's the state office, right?
That's one of their state, that's the inland region office out there on Richards Boulevard.
And you guys, because the state and county aren't really all that, are you pretty close?
Yeah, we all work together, side by side. We do share things. During the King Fire, we're all working together back and forth, supporting El Dorado County, Placer County. So they are as bad as us with limited staff. So we all depend on each other to support each other and do what's going on.
They have a much bigger building.
Yeah, so, but we got the nicer building of the two. So, yes, sir.
Well, you said the trailers are gonna be set up around the convention center. Could you fill in a little more of that? What was that?
I really don't know much more than that. Just right around the convention center, right on K Street and J Street, and some of the side streets are gonna have the trailers in there.
It's February 28th?
That's the 12th. That's just next week.
And what is the event? What's happening?
NAPCO is the national radio organization that's gonna be here. They have a national convention or a statewide convention here next week, and they're gonna have all the command guys down there.
Is there an exhibition or something that we could go to?
You go online and take a look. I don't know. I know I get bombarded with emails from them, but unfortunately, I'm going to be somewhere else that I really didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it since I won't be here. I'll be down in Alameda.
That name again, please?
NAPCO, NAPCO. And you can just go in and Google it on Facebook or on the web, and it'll pull it up for you. Other than that, I thank you very much. Appreciate all what you do and what your efforts are, and thank you for being volunteers. Thank you for being ham operators. We hope to have you in exercises. It's our goal so that we don't have a real exercise. We've been successful now for 17 years of not having to activate the EOC since 1997. If we can continue that for another couple of years, I'll be real happy. Disasters are unique. They are, as we tell everybody, the fun part is the first 5 minutes of the incident, all the response when we're chasing people and trying to pull people off roofs with helicopters and everything, all the fun stuff. Then we get into the recovery phase, and that takes years, 10, 12 years to get a recovery out of a big disaster. So we don't really want to have a big disaster. Yes, ma'am.
What if you are a non-licensed ham? How can I get involved?
Just get involved. We need people to be able to run my page from the fire department. So no, I just need to find out what it was real quick. We need people, so if you're a non-licensed person, we still have a role for you, because that information that the radio operator is getting needs to get to the EOC TV or into our office. So support to that, to the radio operators is key. Being able to transmit it, pass information and information back, absolutely. We do. And everybody has a spot to play in the incident.
Non-hams make great scribes.
Yep,
Good listeners too.
Yeah.
that's why I'm not a scribe.
I mean, when it gets busy, it's very helpful to have someone sitting beside you that can pick up a call sign or can take notes, and copy a message so that it can be passed on, because sometimes the traffic gets pretty heavy.
That's why I say there's a heart for everybody in there, and that's a great resource to have, is somebody that's there to help. Very good. I thank you very much. Appreciate you inviting me. I enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed finding out what our little world is and how you can play a part with us. So we hope you're involved on the 28th and do what working together with us. We want to be inclusive. We're not excluding anyone. We want everybody to play and everybody to participate. Jump on the radio, chat with us, and see what's going on. And happy to schedule a meeting over at our building, take you on a tour of the building, and come back another time and chat some more and find out where we're at and how things are going. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ron.
And Roger, real quick, I just have to say thank you for you being a big supporter of the ham radio community.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people realize how much time you and John and everybody spend together. This isn't just like I talk to John once every 6 months or whatever. There's a good communication going on, so I want to thank you for that and your support.
Our pleasure.
So we appreciate it.
And then John is a big part of that too. So.
Yeah, puts in a lot of hours, but people don't,
I throw it all on Vince.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
It takes all of us to make it happen. So that's the bottom line. So.
Right.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to get involved in area, when you guys meet and where and that kind of thing.
well, it's like $150 if you go through me.
Hey, you lowered your price. You really have to look at our website, www.saccountyAries.org. We don't have a meeting, unlike you, we don't have the first Saturday of every month and the third Saturday. It depends what's going on. We have the exercise on the 28th, so there is no February meeting. And every month, the meeting location changes as well, because we're talking the county. So there's people out here in the north and the east, the north and the west, and people in the south. So it varies. Our next meeting will be in March at Metro Fire Station 106, which is at Butano and Fulton. And you can go to our website and you can see all that information. It's a Saturday. We always have our meetings on a Saturday. But I tell you, in April, it's going to be on the 11th. So it's the second Saturday instead of the first. Because I can't be consistent. I hate that. But it just depends when we can get a room. That's the key. It's really tough to get a room. And when dealing with public facilities, a county facility, or something from the sheriff's department, fire department, you never know what you're gonna get. And sometimes we're meeting at a library, sometimes we're meeting at a university, you just never know, just what's available. But the best place to go is our website, saccountyAries.org.
And real quick, there is no cost.
No, I'm like what Vince was saying. Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah.
You're getting rich off of it.
Bob, we're back to you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and appreciate it again.